The discipline for us when we have possession to make sure that we are still managing every situation for what happens when we lose it becomes paramount, especially against one of the best transition teams in the world and some of the best transition players in the world. Today we'll talk a little bit about the match that we played in Liverpool in the 2022-2023 season. We had just lost 4 matches in a row, and we were getting ready to go to Anfield, which everyone knows is one of the most difficult places to play. So we knew as a team that we had our backs against the wall a little bit and that we were going to have to deliver a really strong performance. We played a lot in this stretch in a 4-2-3-1, but we would kind of be flexible with how we would use that formation. We would use the word asymmetric. So asymmetric for us means that maybe we're leaning one way a little bit or another way a little bit and trying to invite the ball in certain areas, specifically against the ball. So this match we started with Ilan Melier in goal. At right back we had Rasmus Christensen, then Robin Koch and Liam Cooper with Pascal Stroyek at the left back position. And then we had Tyler Adams and Mark Roca as our 2 defensive midfielders. Brendan Aronson ahead of them as the attacking midfielder. And then a lot of times we had in the season played Jack Harrison on the left and Crysencio Summerville on the right. We actually switched him for this game, and I'll go into the reasoning for that a little bit. And then we played with Rodrigo up high. When we play against the ball, we make a decision that we either go pressing line 1, pressing line 2, or pressing line 3. Pressing line 1 means we're all the way up and we're always going to attack a team for the first pass from goal kicks. And pressing line 3 means we come back more to the circle. One of our major principles in pressing, no matter if we're pressing line 1 or pressing line 3, is that the compactness is always got to be a strong point. We don't want huge spaces in our team. So even if we're pressing high, we want our back line to be very brave, and we want to be at the midline with our back line so that we are controlling the space for the opponent to play through us as much as possible. And obviously, a lot of the times when you're pressing, you're always thinking about winning balls, but one of the results is that often you have to deal with long balls so that the back line always has to adjust and be ready for these long ball situations. But the more compact we are, it also is a good opportunity for us to win the second ball in those phases. So being effective at winning balls high up the field is important, but always being compact so that we're controlling as much as we can what the opponent is attempting to do. In this game, Liverpool started at left back with Robertson, left center back with Van Dijk, right center back with Joe Gomez, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back. Klopp had started to use Alexander-Arnold a little bit where he would slide him inside or he would create a little bit of a rotation with Salah. But we felt that when we pressed a certain way that we would be able to keep Trent a little bit more specifically in the right back position. And then we often try to choose, okay, which player do we want to have on the ball? And so we wanted to put Rodrigo a little bit closer to Van Dijk so that we could really now give him no time and look to press him at all moments. And then we wanted to also try to prevent Alexander-Arnold from getting on the ball. So then we had Crysencio Summerville a little bit more trying to control that positioning. And we always have a principle where we try to close the middle. We don't want big spaces for the opponent to play through. So we wanted Gomez on the ball. And one indication for our team on when to press was that the next pass that Gomez made, we were going to attack. Unless it went back to Alisson, we were going to let Alisson have the ball and then invite it back to Gomez again. But anywhere that the next pass went, that was our trigger in this game that we were then going to go after that and be furious in our attacking against the ball. Sometimes Gomez would dribble in, and now we would leave Brendan Aronson a little bit in this position and with the feel of when to attack the ball. We certainly didn't want Gomez to just dribble into our midfield, but we didn't want to be too anxious to start to step out and then open up space where Gomez could play in behind Aronson. So that feel and controlling that situation is really important. And we told Brendan Aronson a lot that we wanted, if Gomez would would put his head down to take a touch, or if he would take a touch on the ball, that was often an indicator that now to go and attack the ball, because it would close the spacing and timing down for Gomez as much as possible. Sometimes the ball would get played to Alexander-Arnold, and we would press it, and they would go back to Gomez. And so, again, in those moments, we wanted to use the feel of the game and the distances of our team to decide, okay, was it the right time for Aronson to start to step out and put pressure on him? Was it the right time for Rodrigo to start to swarm over to this side and attack? Or did we want him to have the ball, and then we would have a little bit of a pause in the game again, and then wait for the next moment? The first goal comes from a moment where we play forward, right? And Gomez now has the ball, and Brendan Aronson decides in this moment that he thinks that he can stay in pressure and he can go after him. So he starts to go after him. Allison comes over. Rodrigo is now alert and sniffing out the play, and the ball gets played errantly back across the goal, and Allison can't get to it. Van Dijk's not ready. And from a pressing situation and a little bit of a lucky situation, we now are able to make an easy goal almost out of nothing from putting Joe Gomez under a little bit of pressure. So that's how the first goal comes about. So it was a product of some of the ideas that we had and how we wanted to press them. But in general, in the match, we still wanted to maintain our discipline and our compactness so that if it did go back to Gomez, that we could be patient and we could still wait for the right moments. Some teams like to press every ball all the time, and for me, the game can get a little bit stretched, especially over 90 minutes. One of the most important things is understanding the compactness, the relationships and the roles, and the togetherness of knowing where to press, when to press, and then, how to execute winning balls and how to turn that in transition. I don't like thinking about pressing to win possession back. I like to press the opponent thinking that now's the time that we're going to score. And I think the most vulnerable time of an opponent is directly when they lose the ball. And so if when you lose the ball, you can be effective at finding moments forward and really sprinting into transition, I think that's the best way to create big chances. One issue we had a little bit in the first half specifically, and so is as Gomez was coming with the ball and Alexander-Arnold was going higher, Summerville felt like he had to follow Alexander-Arnold too much. And if Salah would come inside, then too often we looked like we had five in the back and we had issues a little bit dealing with the space in here. And in this situation, we don't want to follow Alexander-Arnold as much. We want to pass him on, and now he starts to introduce the space where if the pass gets made here, then our left back, Pascal Stroya, can start to attack there. And when the ball gets played there, we like to swarm and attack, and this is what we call ball-orientated pressing. So when the next pass was made, it wasn't man marking and that one player was responsible for one and another. It's more that wherever the ball is, we want to be able to shift, start to move, and now start to create numbers and overloads in that space so that if one player attacks and doesn't win the ball, that we have enough proximity with our other players that we're ready to step in and win that ball from there. And again, that is really important to have compactness so that the team's not spread out, and if one player gets beat, he's on an island. So we managed that better as the game went on. Now, the next part about having Summerville and Harrison. We also felt that with Summerville on this side, when we were able to win balls in this space, that we would able to play forward and that we would often be able to get Summerville out in transition on that wing against Gomez on that side versus him trying to go 1v1 in transition against Van Dijk, which we all know is a very difficult proposition. Our first idea when we would win balls was to try to find the diagonal ball with Jack Harrison and then to move Rodrigo into the half lane, move Summerville into the half lane, and have Aronson moving in. And we tried to see if we could create 4v3s, 4v2s, and we were able to. The second goal comes from that, and Brendan Aronson hit the crossbar once in the match. Invariably with our pressing, there would still be moments now where the front three were able to get on the ball. And Salah, when he would get one-on-one, we wanted to make sure, again, that Summerville was closing space and making sure that Stroyak wasn't left all alone. We talk a lot when we're defending deeper, that we always want a strong connection with our back line. So we call this shifting. And so, again, it's with the idea in mind that if one player gets beat, that the next one is there to help immediately, and that you don't create big spaces for the opponent to run through. And another reason to put Jack Harrison on the right in this game was we needed him to defend the back post. Because one of the things that Liverpool does well is first switching of the ball. They typically have more change of play than any team in the Premier League. And they like to catch you at the second post with crosses when they go 1v1. Whether it's Núñez, who's incredibly good in the air and a good leaper, or Robertson sneaking on the back post, we wanted to make sure that we had Harrison to help deal with that so that they weren't going to be free. One of the results of these kinds of situations is Liverpool wins a lot of corner kicks. And we knew that that was going to be really important. And I even spoke to the team before the match. I said, we are going to be dealing with some moments, some emotional moments where the crowd gets into it, where there's corner kick after corner kick, where Van Dijk's able to get his head on the ball. But we have to stay calm. We have to stay focused on the job at hand. And we have to make sure that set pieces are a big part of us knowing what it's going to require to be successful on the day. They wound up scoring on a second phase in a corner kick where we kind of fell asleep on the back post. But for the most part, Meslier had a good day and made some saves, and we stood pretty tall and pretty strong in a lot of these set piece moments. We know that Liverpool likes to attack high. We wanted to focus on playing on our left side and their right side. We felt that Salah wasn't quite as active defensively as Núñez. And we felt like we could get into the half lane once we were able to overplay them and attack the space behind Gomez. Sometimes with Summerville, sometimes with Rodrigo. But now playing out and playing through the left was going to be important for us. Also, we wanted to try to draw their 2 8s to come to deal with our 2 6s. And in doing so, we felt like we were going to be able to open up spaces in what we call the red zone, behind their midfield line. So we describe the red zone as the space that is in front of the opponent's back line and behind their midfield line. And that's often the space that we want to try to manipulate. And that way we can either turn or create combinations to get at the back line and start to go to goal. We talked about playing directly over Salah to Struijk, and that even sometimes if he was attacked by Alexander-Arnold, that he could win head balls, and then we could start to shift and create an overload with a second ball in this space, or that we would play out this way and start to attack Salah, knowing that Firmino would attack the first pass, and that Struijk would try, if we kept our 6 in tight, that would draw their 8, and then Struijk could play with the space on the line so that we could overplay and start to attack their back line this way. Obviously, Fabinho would start to move into here, and we often felt like if we couldn't find ways to create a combination through this space and get in behind their back line, and Liverpool often likes to play with a high back line, so we wanted to focus on how many times could we create a combination and then look to play behind. But we felt like the next best option was to find the diagonal ball with Jack Harrison, because coming inside on his left foot, he was quite good at catching the ball in the red zone and then starting to either dribble at their back line or find the next pass. In general, as we're overplaying the opponent, one of our main goals is to try to attack the half space, is what we call it, the half lane. So you can extend it from outside the box along the whole pitch, but we think that the most dangerous place to find goals and create chances is by creating little movements that either on this side lead to a deep moment where a midfielder or a striker is running in within runners in the box, often with flat crosses. If the opponent shifts and things start to get a little bit tight on this side and we try to run through, then we like to have counter movements where if the near side midfielder runs through, that one striker is able to come here. There's a connection with the 6. There's a weak side midfielder as an option. So if we can't play here, then maybe we're playing with a counter movement and what we call a style clutch. It's a German word for basically an up and back pass. And then we like to either see if we can find the diagonal space with the opposite 10, or then attack late into the opposite side half lane with either a winger or a fullback on that side, with the idea that they can first time play the ball back across and we're running in the box for tap-ins. A big part of our philosophy of what we try to do in transition and in possession is how many goals can we score that are tap-ins. So that requires good dynamic movement through the opponent's back line to get to the half space. And it requires then all the other attacking players committed that when we do find the advantage in the half space, that we get numbers in the box and that we are really ready to sprint to find advantages and we're ready to see the ball come across quickly and create tap-ins. We always have somebody sprinting to be in the most dangerous positions. So this becomes a big principle that we try to create when we're in attacking moments in the final third. Here is one last aspect that winds up probably being the most important tactical detail when you play against Liverpool. And it's a term we call rest defense. And when we have the ball, we have to make sure that we are very clear that if we lose the ball, that their attacking players have no space or freedom to receive a ball and start to get on the counter. If we lose balls in a space, whether it's off of their back line or off of their midfield space, it is ultra important that we are very good at counterpressing. So how do we achieve this? Well, it's a tactical arrangement, and we often when we have the ball, we call it our net. And if you were to imagine now drawing triangles between our team, we want to make sure that we're always compact enough so that if we lose the ball, we can close space and go and win it back right away. But we also want to be open enough where when we do move the ball, we have enough space to manipulate the opponent and make them have to deal with shifting in our movements and our ideas of what we're trying to achieve in possession. Now it's massively important that when we counterpress and they're able to play out, that our defenders are tight with their attackers. And tight enough that Salah should not be able to touch this ball. We should be able to step in and win the ball. That is the objective. That when we lose the ball, first that we win the ball from counterpressing, and if not, that if they play out, that we're already ready to win the ball there. The relationship between counterpressing and rest defense winds up being ultra important. Because if your team is not effective enough at counterpressing, then the opponent who wins the ball can have too much time that if Salah wants to turn, they can chip and play behind us. And obviously, no defender wants to be put in a situation where they have to defend in the deep against Salah. But if you're good at counterpressing and they are able to play out and our rest defense is bad, and now Salah is able to catch it in space and turn and run, then the commitment to counterpress won't be as strong because the players won't have trust that if they don't win the ball, that opponents are going to be open. So the discipline for us when we have possession to make sure that we are still managing every situation for what happens when we lose it becomes paramount, especially against one of the best transition teams in the world and some of the best transition players in the world. In the second half, mostly to bring some fresher legs for some pressing and defensive moments and transition moments, we brought in Patrick Bamford for Rodrigo, and then we brought in Willy Nanto for Jack Harrison, and we shifted Summerville to the right. And then we wanted to see if we could get Nanto in a similar role that we wanted Summerville in the first half. Late in the match, in the second half, we had played a ball up front. We tried to put a little combination together. We lost the ball, and Milner had the ball kind of in the corner, and we call it staying in pressure. If we feel like the distances are close enough, so even though we had the match plan with Gomez, again, if we feel that the distances aren't too big, that we still want to stay in pressure and that we want our whole team now being compact and being brave and being ready to attack balls. So we put a little bit of pressure in here. They tried to loop a ball into Firmino coming underneath, and Tyler Adams was able to step in and win the ball and play forward to Willy Nanto. And then Milner and Curtis Jones tried to close him down, but he went in a little bit of a 1v1 situation. He played a flat cross, which We spoke specifically again against playing against Liverpool that flat crosses, if we were going to play an aerial ball in the box, that the second post was a better target because with Van Dijk and Gomez, they can clean up everything. So we wanted flat crosses. We were able to play one across. Bamford got a touch on it, and the touch got away from a little bit, but Summerville was there to pick up the moment and then slip the ball into the back post. We get the winner. In total, the game required some luck, right? You go to Liverpool, you know you're going to have a tough match on your hands, and you need a couple of breaks. That being said, I think expected goals at the end was they had 1.9 and we had 1.6. So the game, they had possession at times. They weren't able to break us down a ton. We were pretty disciplined and compact. We were also effective at certain moments on the counter. And in the end, we gave ourselves a chance in the match by sticking to the match plan, by being disciplined, and now keeping things tight. And, I think at the time it was such a big win for us and a great feeling for us because we had some really good performances against really good opponents. But to go to a place like Liverpool that, it's almost impossible to get a win, to get the 3 points, and then come away with it was an incredible feeling for our team.